what we're talking about next, which is Final Fantasy 16, because we talked a little bit yesterday and we saw a VT yesterday all about the game and the new world that they've built, and it looks stunning and gorgeous, while some eagle-eyed people have been looking at the comparisons between it and previous games. So Final Fantasy fans have been picking apart the new footage that we saw yesterday to discover possible references to previous games in the series. New footage of the game was released online, taken from a talk by producer Naoki Yoshida. It looks truly stunning, as we know. One Twitter user has been collating it, including the one you can see here, starting a thread of comparisons between previous games and the trailer for 16. For instance, a couple of examples they gave: the battle music from composer Masayoshi, God, Japanese names, I'm sorry. Masayoshi Soken appears to reference Don't Be Afraid from Final Fantasy VIII. And there are other similarities, like shots in cutscenes from Final Fantasies 1, 4, and 9. Perhaps the most obvious, however, is in Final Fantasy XIV, considering the game shares many of the same team. In fact, the fight with Benedicta, God, I apologize for butchering these. She cries, "Now fall," which is a reference to Garuda from the Mamorpaga Final Fantasy XIV. Now, obviously, as you can tell, I am not one to be strong enough about these. So we've brought in our resident Final Fantasy expert, Lauren, who can tell us more and actually explain, well, one, why I can't say these names, but two, tell us all about Final Fantasy 16. Lauren, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I know it's been a lot. Like honestly, my husband had the really great honor of being able to go and actually play Final Fantasy 16. So we actually had quite a like front row seat while I kind of had a sideline to the experience of Final Fantasy 16 so far. And honestly, it's exactly as you said, it looks amazing. And I'm happy to sort of be the person to help sort of navigate all this like new stuff that has come out of PAX East. And yeah, I mean, so it was they did a trailer for Valisthea, which is essentially the worlds of Final Fantasy 16. And it looks awesome. Like there's so much stuff that is jam packed in there. Jungles. You got like some really cute Tudor houses. You have some areas where it's just like a volcano. Like they really tried to utilize the space and really try to make it like as diverse as possible. And then they had, yes, this really great gameplay demo from Koji Fox, who's the localization translation director at Square Enix, and Yoshi P, the producer. And yeah, it looked incredible. They showcased like a lot of different things, essentially to allay fears, because there's been a lot of talk about certain aspects. Like whenever you see a new trailer, there's always somebody there to like needle pick through it to just sort of see like what can I take from this? What does this mean? Or complain. So like some of the biggest things that they wanted to address concerns over was the fact that it's not open world versus it is open world. They really tried to show the expansion of the spaces that in which you'll be walking through, the fast travel between areas as well, and how fast it is to travel between areas. They covered difficulty because apparently they've ditched difficulty in favor of these like cool accessories. So they have like an accessory for you can automatically use an item, you can automatically attack things. Like they're really trying to change the way in which we view difficulty, in an effort to just make it so that it's like you haven't played an easy hard or anything. You've just played with these cool accessories. They address frame rates, so like whether or not how you can change graphics on the fly, whether or not you want something that's a bit more pretty looking or something that performs really well. And they showed like sort of the basics of how the gameplay works and how you can switch between abilities, and how Torgal, your little dog, and Jill will work in combat alongside the main character, Clive. So it was a lot. It was a lot to take in, but it looked so good.
Yeah, it really does. Obviously, we've seen the trailer so far. We've got so for those of you who like maybe don't know too much about, because obviously Final Fantasy is a complete sort of, there's just a smorgasbord of so many different things. So what exactly is the story of this game? What are you going to be doing? What is the general sort of premise?
Sure, of course. So essentially, it takes place in Valistia, which I said about, and uh, in this in this world, there are six realms that are all controlled essentially by these mother crystals, and the mother crystals produce something called aether, which essentially like gives the areas that grow up. So there's all these cities that kind of grow up around the crystal because they really want this aether, and it makes them feel comfortable. It makes things peaceful and stuff. However, lately the mother crystals, some of them have been fading, and there's also been a really big like sort of thing called a blight, which essentially is corrupting more of the land. So the realms are now becoming restless and are fighting each other for control over the various crystals. And you play a character named Clive Rosfield, who is a part of a realm called Rosaria. And essentially, he was the son of the Archduke of Rosaria, so he was the first son. He was meant to inherit this icon, which is called Phoenix. So he was essentially supposed to inherit this really big superpower. But for whatever reason, he didn't get it. A bit like Mirabelle in Encanto, it's like that thing where it just kind of bypassed him. I think we'll probably learn about that in the game. And it went to his younger brother, Joshua. And so Joshua inherited the Phoenix. And um, in the beginning of the game, it's not really certain what happens or when it will play out, but essentially something really big and tragic happens in Rosaria. They're attacked by this dark icon, which is Dark Ifrit. And essentially, it changes Clive's entire lifestyle. He no longer can just be the guard of Rosaria. He's out for revenge, to try and recover from this really big loss that he had in his life. And he's joined by at times Jill, who is she's one of she's somebody from another realm. She was taken from another realm as a sort of like boon between nations. And she's kind of like a sister character to Clive and Joshua. She's very close to their family. So she's helping you with fighting. Um, and then you have your little pup Torgal who helps you, and they showcase how you can pet him and give him a treat. And then there are times where you can have Sid as well. It's not really set in stone how many different characters you'll have coming in to help you at which point, but that's like kind of the bare bones of the story. And yeah, it sounds really intense.
There's a lot. There's an awful lot going on there. I love the fact that the guy's name is Clive. He sounds like the man who works at the post office. So
I know.
it's such an unusual, unusually normal name for a Final Fantasy character. And so
Oh my gosh, yeah.
you touched a little bit upon this with what we've found out. But what is new in 16 compared to say 15 or 7 remake? Like, what are the new mechanics? What's different this time around?
Sure, of course. I mean, it's kind of becoming common ground now with Final Fantasy to make it more action RPG. Like, although it's new for this, it's kind of become a trend within the games to have it be more action RPG. But the difference is that this time they've actually called upon help. So they have the Devil May Cry 5 battle designer
Oh, nice.
Ryota Suzuki to help with all the battles. So they really tried to like utilize all of the information they could from outside to try and really make it as polished and experienced. So it's really high energy. There's a lot of switching in between. Summons are different now, so it's not a case of like you sort of wait, you watch the summon like type of thing. It's more of a case of like you can change into summon abilities on the fly with just the L2. So you can like have power that's like Garuda or power that's like Ifrit, and it's quite adaptable depending on what kind of action you're doing. Like there's a different ability that you can do with Garuda if you've jumped up in the air or if you're standing on the ground. Like it's really fascinating, and it will be really exciting to see like what all the different combinations are. And yeah, of course, the other thing is the fact that you are playing as the single main character, Clive. It doesn't really seem like there's going to be a chance to play as any of the other characters. It's primarily going to be about Clive.
Yeah, okay, right. That makes sense. And it definitely sounds like more exciting stuff. I love the fact that Devil May Cry guy's in it because that's one of the best action games ever made. So yeah, that's very
Yeah.
exciting. We don't have long left, but I do want to ask your opinion on squeezy holes because there seems to be a lot of internet criticism about the fact that you have to squeeze through gaps, which has become a bit of a meme in the games industry. For we know you're loading the game.
I know.
Honestly, does it matter?
Oh, I mean, it's such a like irritating like thing because it's like, well, one, this whole situation came about because they used it as part of their marketing to show how Torgal will help you in finding areas. So it was a bit of a strange marketing choice. I don't know why they chose that sequence. Like there's other areas where Torgal helps you that are much more interesting, much more fascinating. But yeah, squeeze holes, I don't really mind them. Like if it's a case of like game designers using it to try and ease their load, like I don't mind a squeezy hole.
No.
I just, it doesn't make or break a game for me. And I don't see why I should throw that into the void, that negativity.
No, I think it's just because of the fact we've got new gen consoles and loading times are obviously going to get better. So, well, look, either
Yeah.
way, Laura, I'm afraid we've literally run out of time. There's so many more questions I wanted to ask, but we'll have to get you back on and do that another time. Until then, thank you so much. It's really interesting, really insightful.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And yes, no, I'm really excited for this game.
Exactly. It's out in June, so not long to wait. All right, thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it.